Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden. We're going to head up towards Stockholm for this one, the capital city, and we're returning to a brewery who I haven't had anything from in absolutely ages. I've only ever reviewed one beer from these guys on the channel before. So for this one then we are going to return to Pang Pang Brewery, and we're having a look at the Gang Gang today, which is an Imperial Double IPA, whatever you want to call it, coming in at 9% ABV. Now, the last beer I reviewed from these guys was, I think it was called the Cookie Monster Stout, if I remember correctly. It was a cookie stout, an imperial stout, and it was very nice, but after that it was very difficult to get a hold of any of the other Pang Pang beers, come to think of it. So I think mainly they were focusing on supplying restaurants and beer bars and stuff in the Stockholm area, so there really wasn't much of a variety of things to choose from Systembolaget in terms of Pang Pang beers until quite recently. And you know, kudos to Systembolaget for making it a little bit easier for the Swedish breweries to access the thing. Every month now we have the local and småskaligt assortment that has lots of different Swedish beers, and we do get a few Norwegian and Danish things in that as well actually, so that's definitely worth keeping an eye on. It's nice that we're getting new beers every month as well. This particular one was released on this local and småskaligt on the 3rd of March 2020, so check out this one. And I know that there's another couple of Pang Pang beers coming out in the April one, so we'll need to see if we can take a look at one or two of those as well. But yeah, definitely cool to return to this brewery after quite a long time, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Pang Pang Brewery before. Hopefully I can add some more in the near future. I definitely won't be leaving it another like 3-4 years to review another beer from them. I think it was 2016 was my last review from these guys. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Pang Pang Brewery then. So Pang Pang are based in an old brewery in Hökarängen in Stockholm, and the company was founded by Fredrik Tunedal back in 2011, which actually makes it the oldest craft brewery in the city of Stockholm. So he'd been involved in the restaurant business for a number of years before he started to brew beer for himself. He started off as a home brewer and just enjoyed the hobby, but then decided he wanted to have his own business doing this. So apparently he started off with just 50,000 Swedish kroners of savings, which is roughly about you know, what would that be? That's about £4,500, €5,500, something like that. But he started off with this when he was just 25 years old, and apparently he built the brewing equipment himself from old dairy tanks, and the beers were all brewed in very small 750 litre batches, and that kind of makes sense. That would be the main reason why it was quite difficult to get a hold of some of the Pang Pang beers. But in the early days, most of the beers were just going to local restaurants, but they are now quite widely available in Systembolaget through the order system. And in recent times, I know that this year they are planning to release a lot more of the different beers. They had a kind of, I think there was only 2 or 3 were available regularly through Systembolaget for a very long time. But in July of 2015, Fredrik also began some experimentation with distillation, and by 2018 he'd grown the brewery production to around 75,000 litres of beer per year. As of March 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 90 different varieties of beer, and they've got quite a few different things in there. Some of the different beer styles are very interesting. They've got a lot of these kind of sweet stouts that are a little bit like some of the Omnipollo things. They've got a good number of sour beers and stuff in there as well, and you'll find a few kind of random oddities as well. So definitely a brewery that you want to keep your eye on. But pardon me, if you're wanting the beers through Systembolaget and things, I think You will be waiting a little bit for that, but they do seem to be wanting to release a new beer every month through Systembolaget, so hopefully you will see a few more Pang Pang reviews on the channel over the coming year. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Pang Pang Brewery for the moment. The name of this brewery is literally, if we translate it into English, it is like bang bang, so you know, like boom boom, whatever. Gunshots, I think, like bang bang, Wild West sort of thing. That pang pang is just how the Swedes would say it. Like, to them a gunshot is pang, not bang. So that is basically the name of the brewery. But yeah, if you want to learn more about this brewery, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer then. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. It does have a little bit of that kind of sort of out there Omnipollo-ish type thing. It's not quite the same, but the artwork on these guys, it's this, I don't know, Peter over at the Clueless Drinker, he's a lot more into his art than I am. I just always, you know, I can always just say whether I like it or not, and I think it is kind of pretty cool. It is quite eye-catching, you do have to give them that. It's quite an unusual things like gang gang. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the inspiration for the name of this particular beer would be, but it would be cool if they could write a little bit and sort of tell you that on the can as well. That would be my one criticism of the artwork here. But like I said to you, this one is a 9% Imperial IPA, Double IPA, whatever you want to call it, and it is hopped with Azacca, Citra, Mosaic and Maltere. So we know Azacca is a lovely kind of orangey and slightly pineapple-y hop. Citra is the classic high alpha acid hop, mangoes, lots of tropical fruit complexities. Mosaic's got that lovely tangerine orange character, and Maltere is quite an interesting one. It's like quite a strong grapefruity and passion fruity hop from New Zealand, if I remember correctly, because you always get Maltere and Malteki, and I always used to kind of mix them up. You've also got you've got YET. I think there is another one that's got a kind of similar name, and I had it in my head before I did the video, but it's gone right out of my head now. But there are some very lovely hops in New Zealand. If you're interested in crazy hops and stuff in New Zealand, it's definitely one of the places that you want to go. But this one is a 440ml can, 44 centilitres as they say in Sweden. But let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting. I'm not sure how well you're going to see this because, like I said, my camera tends to hate shiny cans. But there you can see, there is the Pang Pang brewery symbol there. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting. I'm really curious to see what Pang Pang Brewery have in store for us. Is this going to be a hazy? I think it is going to be. I'll tell you something, the aroma that's coming out of the can here is absolutely lovely. So yeah, this looks like it's going to be a kind of straight up New England hazy type double IPA, this one. Let's get rid of the brewery notes now and focus on the beer. So yeah, as you can see with this one, and as you'd kind of expect from a sort of modern IPA, this one has poured a lovely bright, it's one of the kind of more strong yellowish colours, this one. It's sort of getting in towards that hazy orangey type quality, as you would expect. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head, which incidentally is quite a big bubbled, frothy, perfect white head. The aroma, the fruity notes coming out of this are absolutely lovely. It's quite well balanced between the citrus and the tropical notes, but if I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this beer does have a good degree of haze to it. It's not the murkiest and haziest of New England type IPAs that you're going to come across, but it does have an acceptable level of haze, I guess you could say, for a modern IPA. So yeah, nice looking beer, this one. Nothing overly surprising about it in terms of its appearance. So let's take a look at that aroma then and see how we get on. Oh yeah, straight away with this one, the malt base of this is really quite nice, and of course the yeast will be playing a role in this too. So you can definitely pick up a nice kind of wheaty bite to this one, but at the same time you've got a little bit of the oaty kind of creaminess in it. The oaty notes that come out of this one are almost, they're very, very sweet in their smoothness actually. So yeah, it's the aroma that comes out of this beer is really quite nice. It's actually very well balanced between the malt and yeasty characteristics and also the hoppy side of things. So the malt base, like I say, there's a wee bit of biscuit to it, there's a good little bit of wheaty bite, but you can really smell that kind of big smooth oaty creaminess there, and it's almost a little bit like a kind of, it almost has a little bit of that kind of oatmeal-y, porridgey type aroma to it. That's kind of an interesting thing. It's got a little bit of that kind of sweetness that you can sometimes get from oats at the front. It's not quite vanilla and it's not quite milkshake, it's almost just like a kind of porridgey, rice puddingy type thing, come to think of it. You know, it's got a little bit of that kind of vibe to it. So that's an interesting point to make about this beer. The malt base comes across as quite interesting, but you will find quite a few beers that have got these types of aromas in the malt base these days. So I like how that goes together. In terms of the hoppy side of things, or the green side of the hops, there is a good little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity coming out of this one. And I mean, with all these hops that are in here, I have no idea what the alpha acid content of Malteri is. But you know, Citra I think is like 11, 12-ish%. Mosaic I'm pretty sure is 13 or 14, and I think Azacca is in that sort of 13%-ish region as well. So they're all high alpha acid hops. To have quite that, you know, to have that quite big kind of floral, aromatic-y type quality out of this beer is not surprising in the slightest. So yeah, you've got a lovely big kind of floral aromaticity to this one. Some really nice juicy fruity notes to it. I love how this, I really do like how this, how all of this goes together. It almost smells a little bit limey actually, which is quite interesting, because none of these hops should really have a none of these hops really should have kind of limey characters to them, as far as I can remember. Malteki does, but Malteri no. Malteri is more of a kind of passion fruity, grapefruity type thing from what I remember. So yeah, it's really interesting that actually. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, there's definitely a good bit of passion fruit to this one, and that'll be both. Citra will give you a little bit of it, but I think mainly that's the passion fruity notes will be coming from the Malteri in this one. There's a good bit of a big orangey note, kind of orangey. It's quite a sharp, almost mandarin-y orange, I think, that comes out of this one. But when you take the aroma in a bit more deeply, it gets a little bit more oily and juicy, as you would kind of expect from Mosaic. You can really smell that in this beer. There are a few lemon-limey notes. That's one of the kind of complexities that you can sometimes get from Citra. For me, there is quite a bit of a limey quality to this beer overall in the aroma. So yeah, if I had to pick with the fruits, I'd say it's a little bit kind of passion fruity. I don't think there's much grapefruit to this one. There is a wee bit of a pineapple-y note in there, which comes from the Azacca. So yeah, the passion fruit will be from the sort of Citra and the Malteri. A little bit of a kind of wee bit of a pineapple note as well. Some big orangey citrus, but I think a good little bit of a limey quality to this one as well, which is interesting. But like I say, that would be Malteki rather than Malteri. So yeah, lovely aroma to this beer. Quite a fresh, citrusy smelling New England IPA in my mind. But at 9% ABV, you know, you can really smell the maltiness in this one and the big wheaty notes, but you will need a good balance to this beer when it comes up to this. I've said before, I've always found that these hazy IPAs, it's difficult to go above the 8.5% mark in my mind, so I'm very curious to see what Pang Pang have done with this one. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Gang Gang Hazy New England Double IPA, whatever you want to call it, from Pang Pang Brewery up in Stockholm here in Sweden. Nice to return to this brewery after so long, and I look forward to trying more beers from them. Slange, skål. Yeah, that's really pretty damn solid actually. For a 9%er, that's frighteningly drinkable. You know, that is one of the things I would say about this beer. I'm not sure, going by the actual sort of flavour of this one, it almost in some ways, it doesn't strike me as being overly New Englandish, if that makes sense. It looks like a New England one, but in some ways it kind of comes across, and it's got the bitterness and the fruitiness you'd expect of a New England, but for a 9% double New England, it doesn't quite have the big kind of thickness and creaminess that you like. It's definitely got a little bit of that kind of almost lighter body that you'd expect of a West Coast IPA. So this is a really interesting one. I mean, we can sit and debate what style exactly this beer is all day, but the main question should be, is it a good beer? And it is. At 9% though, this is stupidly easy to drink. So yeah, obviously they're doing something right with this if they can cover the alcohol that well. So yeah, this is a really nice, it is just a really solid, it's actually, you know, I wouldn't, if I was blind tasting this, I would probably think actually that this beer is a fairly standard, kind of, you know, sort of 7%-ish new IPA. If I was blind tasting it as well, I don't know if I'd necessarily guess that it was a hazy or New England. I might say it was, I don't know what exactly I would say about it, but it's good. And, you know, as I say, it's great to come back to this brewery and see that they're producing quality beers. So thumbs up to Pang Pang for this one. And I will say, having put that last bit in the can, it does thicken up slightly, but still, it feels pretty light for a big 9%er. You'd be surprised at how easy this one is to drink. But yeah, so yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this one then. Straight away in the middle of your palate, you can feel that nice white bready, wheaty quality. That just blankets the middle of the tongue. If you go towards the back of the palate there, you can feel there's a little bit of a kind of spiciness almost. A little bit that stronger, more bitey, wheaty quality there. But as you come further forward on the palate, it does kind of push forward a little bit. You get some nice kind of creamy, oaty notes towards the front of the tongue. But if you go to the very centre of your palate, you'll get just a little touch of a kind of biscuity note to the beer. But that's quite minimal. This one, to me, it's the wheat. Really, you do get a nice little bit of a kind of wheaty dryness out of this one, and wheaty spiciness towards the back of the palate actually, which is good. So yeah, I do like this. It is a very kind of crisp, drinkable New England IPA. I'm not sure if this is intended. As I say, when it comes to this style in this brewery, I really have no frame of reference, so I can just tell you whether or not this one is a good beer, but it's stupidly drinkable for its alcohol. I mean, I've said that a few times now. But yeah, the malt base on this one is very light. Lovely kind of white bready, pale malty kind of quality there. It's almost the pale malt that blankets the middle of your tongue. The wheat comes out towards the back. There is a little bit of oatiness there towards the front of the palate, but not too much of that. And in the centre of the tongue, as I say, a little bit of a kind of biscuity quality there, but there's very little sweetness to the malt base on this one. It really does come across as more of a big kind of smooth thing. It's surprising when it's up at 9%, like I say, because normally you would want a little bit of carapils or a little bit of a biscuity malt in this one actually, so keep that in mind. Yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there is a wee bit of earthiness there. You can get that. It's quite a dark earthiness, come to think of it, but that might just be the contrast with the floral notes that this beer has. But yeah, it could also be the Malterre, because when it comes down to it, I know the other hops fairly well, but Malterre may well be giving you a little bit of earthiness here too. But I would think it's the Mosaic that's giving you that earthiness in the back of the palate, but quickly as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you do get a little bit of a dankness out of this beer, and it starts to evolve to be a little bit spicy as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate there. It's got a really nice nice little bit of a spiciness to it. As you go round the front curve of the palate there, it gets a little bit lighter and grassy, but I do like the kind of bigger sort of piney resinous note that this one has. This one I think might be a little, I think it probably is a bit higher than the standard 30 IBUs. for this style, and think it kind of has to be when it's such a high alcohol beer. But yeah, behind that kind of grassy feel at the front of the beer, when you go behind the front curve of the palate there, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And for me, if you go to the back of that oily bubble there, it's quite, I don't think it's quite grapefruit, but it definitely has a little bit of that kind of stronger passion fruity note. But then as you move further forward on the palate, you get a wee bit of a kind of mangoey note from the citra, you get some of the pineapple-y notes coming out of the Azacca, but then as you come on to that very kind of front part of your palate, just behind the very tip of the tongue, it's got this kind of lovely, juicy, orangey note. This beer really does come across as quite citrusy. You do get some of the darker tropical fruits at the very back of that sort of fruity part of your palate, but for me, this is mainly quite a citrusy, pardon me, really is quite a citrusy New England IPA, this one. So yeah, the oranges almost come across as a little bit stronger and more mandarin-like, to be honest, but you can really feel, if you focus on that very almost tip of the tongue part of the beer, you can feel the oranges. They just they come in and they're a bit dark, then they just weten up, and you start to feel the tropical side of the beer just kind of creeping forward a little bit. So it's the Malteri and some of the citra notes that are starting to creep forward on the Azacca and the Mosaic. I do get a wee bit of a pineapple-y note out of this one in the aftertaste, and that again is one of the kind of complexities of the Azacca. But if you go to the front of the palate, the very front edge, there is a real bit of a kind of lemon limey kind of vibe to this beer as well, which is quite interesting. You really feel that lingering into the aftertaste, along with a bit of the darker tropical fruit. For me, the orangey, mandarin-y notes, they're there for a little bit, but they don't stick around all that long in my mind. But yeah, I mean, this is a solid sort of hazy New England type IPA, this one. For 9%, it's crazily drinkable. You do get a little bit of the alcohol warmth out of this one, which is interesting. It would be interesting to see them put a little bit of carapils or something in this beer as well, and just give it a slightly sweeter malt base, because it is quite kind of straight up, and yeah, it is I think it's fair to say that this one is a very sort of straight up beer. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't hold any punches back, but it really is quite the malt base of this one is really quite straight up, but the hop combination I think that they've got in here works very well. It's if you like your New England IPAs citrusy, then this is one that you are going to enjoy. I can feel the booze with this one going to my head a little bit already, actually, which is interesting. But yeah, the 9%, this one it's crazily drinkable, but it doesn't feel like overly boozy, if that makes sense. You can tell once you've had a few sips of it that it's a little bit kind of heavier, not just because how it makes your head, but you can feel in the flavour in the middle of your palate that it is quite a heavy one, in fairness, because of the, you know, mainly because of the wheaty note at the back of the palate and the sort of lack of sweetness almost in the middle of the tongue too. It does get a little bit darker in the middle of the palate, but overall, as a beer, it is very nice, and I would recommend that you try it. The Gang New England Hazy Double IPA, whatever type of double IPA you want to call it. So yeah, a nice beer from Pang Pang Brewery, the Gang. So yeah, let's talk about the mouthfeel of this one then. I do find, again, I'm getting more of the oranges out of this, which is quite nice. But in terms of its mouthfeel, I'd say that this is a fairly mid-bodied beer. It might actually be in the very middle of the scale, almost pushing the lighter end of mid-bodied, actually. The carbonation is quite nice on this one. I would say that overall the mouthfeel is pretty smooth, but it does have a little bit of a kind of wetness to it as well, so keep that in mind with this beer. In terms of the bitterness in the IBUs, I think would be about 50 or maybe 60 IBUs in this one. It's definitely a little bit more than the standard sort of 30 that you'd normally find, but that really suits it. So malt base, as I say, is very, very smooth. There's a teeny little bit of sweetness in there, but really not very much. Good level of hoppy bitterness, 60 IBUs as I said, and with the fruity notes, it's got a little bit of the darker tropical note, and also quite a bit of a kind of zesty type quality to it as well, which is interesting. So the fruit notes in this beer are really pretty damn pungent, I have to say. So yeah, if you like a more citrusy New England type IPA, then this is one that I think you will quite enjoy actually. Nice to see Mouthfeel make another appearance over here in Europe actually. We don't get too many of the breweries using the New Zealand hops, other than really Nelson Sauvin. That's always been popular, but you've got Raka, Riwaka, Waiti, Malteke. There's other ones that aren't coming to mind at the moment. There's a hell of a lot of different New Zealand varieties of hops. So yeah, so let's kind of round up on this one then. So yeah, I would say if you like if you like a big citrusy New England IPA, this is one that you're going to enjoy. I'm trying to think what I could compare it to actually, and it's quite difficult because, as I say, I don't have such a big kind of point of reference with this brewery, come to think of it. But if you want a nice kind of drinkable double, almost triple IPA, this actually, then this is one that you are definitely going to enjoy. But let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. As always, please let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section. But let me know what your favourite beers are from Pang Pang Brewery. It's lovely to have been able to review another one of their beers, and you'll definitely see me review more of their beers over this coming year. But a big citrusy New England Double IPA that certainly did not disappoint. So big thumbs up to Pang Pang, and it's nice to see you guys back again. So yeah, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Pang Pang Brewery as well. But I'll catch you guys very soon. It was great to review this one, the Gang Gang New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, Double IPA from Pang Pang Brewery. So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Make sure you check out this beer, and you will see more from these guys over the next few months. Slàinte, skål, cheers.